Welcome, folks. Today we're going to be talking about getting yourself unstuck. So, getting out of a rut, or in other words, overcoming stagnation. So, when we're talking about stagnation, we're talking about the lack of forward movement in one's own life. So, when a person feels that they are not making progress, that things are not getting better. Because if you've ever been in that situation where things aren't getting better, you're not making progress, it's one, a very stressful situation to be in. And number two, your mental health begins to deteriorate, and it begins to deteriorate very, very quickly. Simply because people by nature are like bicycles. Right? A bicycle only ever has balance when it's moving forward. When you're pedaling, you've got balance. But when a bicycle isn't in motion, when it's stood still, there is no balance. It begins to tip right over. People tip over when there is no progress, when there is no forward movement. Right? And that's where happiness comes in. Happiness comes from progress. Like people tell you, like, you should just be happy. No, you shouldn't be happy. You won't feel happy unless you're making progress. Like things could be going completely wrong in your life. You could have loads of troubles in your life, but if there's just like one small part of your life where you're making progress and things are moving forward, man, you can feel elated. You'll feel happy. You'll have the energy and the vigor to fix the other aspects of your life that aren't where you want them to be. But you need to have that progress. So we're going to be talking about overcoming stagnation. So normally when a person is stagnating, the base reason why you're stagnating is normally, there's fear. Fear is the most prevalent thing. But there are a couple quick things I really want to address just to put in perspective before I start getting into the meat of the thing. So the first reason, potential reason why you may be stagnating is simply because you just don't have a plan. Sometimes you're stagnating or you're not moving forward because you don't have a plan. And you've heard that saying, like, you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But it's true. Sometimes you just need a plan. Like you need to have some sort of plan. And the plan doesn't have to be like, the most intricate, amazing thing, but you just need a basic plan to execute. Because once you start executing and you start, taking steps, the plan can be improved, but you just need some point of reference to move from. But it's difficult to make progress, and it's difficult to move forward when you haven't got a plan, because a plan will detail specifically what the problem is and what the ideal end outcome is. If you haven't got a clear definition of what the ideal end outcome is, how do you know that you've hit it? So sometimes you just need a plan. So if you haven't got a plan, create one. Now, if you've got a plan already, then you normally have one of two problems, which are fear related. So this first reason is the inability to execute the plan, or in other words, performance anxiety. You're fearful of executing on the plan. And fear will normally have many different reasons. And when we think about fear, we've got to break it down. Like specifically, what is fear really? So fear has four levels, right? You've got the thing that you present and tell yourself that you're afraid of, the outcome that you're trying to avoid, and then what it is that you're really afraid of. So for example, let's say you could be afraid to ask out the girl that you like, right? We'll go with that example. You're afraid to ask out the girl that you like. If we ask you like a quiz, why is it that you're afraid of asking the girl out? It would be like, I'm afraid that, I won't be able to perform the way that I want to. Why? If I don't perform the way that I want to, I will be rejected. Okay, we're afraid of being rejected. Why? I don't want to be rejected because if I'm rejected, then I'll be embarrassed. Now, if we break it even down even further, what is it? Why are you afraid of being embarrassed? It's not that you're afraid of being embarrassed, but you're afraid that you don't believe that you can handle being embarrassed. That's what fear is, the inability to trust yourself to be able to handle the thing. When you say I'm afraid of something, you're saying that I don't think I can handle it. I don't think I can handle the rejection from the girl. I don't think I can handle potentially being embarrassed. I don't think I can handle the disapproval of my parents. I don't think I can really handle, this new promotion. That's really what it is. That's really what fear is. So sometimes you don't execute because you don't believe you can handle the thing. And when you have that in mind, you gotta like burn this in the back of your mind that one, progress doesn't happen without you, first of all, putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. And two, you only learn to be able to handle things when you put yourself in those situations. So you have to take that leap of faith and execute anyway. You learn as you go along. You gotta have that growth mindset. You adapt. You adapt to the stresses that you place yourself upon. This is what the game of life is all about. So that's the first form of fear, the inability to execute on the plan that is created. The second is the inability to act upon the truths that you are aware of in your own life. So when we're talking about the inability to act upon the truths that you are aware of in your own life, we're talking about unpleasant truths, things that you need to address. For example, you could be together with a spouse that you don't like. You're thinking, man, I hate this woman. Or I hate this guy. Why am I with him? But you're sticking it out. You could be like, I hate this job. I hate everybody here. I hate everybody in this establishment. But you don't leave. Um, my friends, they're not very nice to me. These people don't care about me, but you still stick around with them. There are all these specific truths. We all have our own specific truths that we have to deal with, things that we have to address. And when you don't address them, when like you close your eyes to the truth and you pretend that they're not there, what happens is they begin to weigh in heavier on you. These are the things that needs to be addressed for you to move forward. And you normally don't act upon these things because one, either you're fearful or you believe somebody else should do it. You think that somebody is going to come and save you. The reality is nobody's coming. Like, the white knights in the robes, they're not coming, man. You have to be the hero in your own story. You have to save yourself. Nobody's coming to save you. So when you burn that in the back of your mind, you must act upon these truths. You don't act upon these truths, they begin to get heavy and they begin to weigh you down. These are the things that are slowing you down from making progress. So those are the two, man, I'm tired. The two materialisms of fear. So one, of course, not executing on the plan, and two, not acting upon the truths that you know. So what do we do then from this point? So now that we're aware that, we've created a plan, we're aware that we're not executing on things that we need to do, or we're not addressing the things that we know we need to address, how do we get ourselves unstuck now? Where do we go from here? The first thing is we need to get the mind right, because the mind is where everything begins. The mind is the base. So first of all, you want to start feeding yourself the right things. And the second thing that I like to ask myself when I'm in times of stress or when I'm times where I'm fearful and I'm not executing is I ask myself this: if I wasn't fearful, what would I do, think, and say? How would I act if I wasn't fearful? If there was no fear in me, what would I do? And when you've got that written down, if I wasn't fearful, what would I do? You can write down a clear plan on what you can do. We can write down a clear plan on how to execute on what you need to do. And when you've got that, that's excellent. Now, the second component, which I said was working on your mindset, is you need to start feeding your mind the correct stuff, the correct information. Now, of course, that comes from reading, that comes from listening to videos like mine. But the other component of it as well is managing your mind. So when we're talking about managing your mind, what I think is really, really important, which I've talked about on many different videos, which I'm going to talk about again, is this. I want you guys to really get into the habit of journaling. Journaling is extremely important. And when talking about journaling, we're talking about writing down your feelings, writing down how you feel, writing down what's happening in your life, writing down your thought processes, writing down why you think that you're afraid, exploring these things. Because when you explore these things and you have them all written down, one, you're making sense and processing what's going on in your head unconsciously. You're getting it down, written down on paper. And two, it allows you to identify specifically what your problem is, what your fears are. Because your fears aren't as problematic and they aren't as controlling over you when you've got them written down, when you know exactly what they are. A defined fear doesn't have control over you. What is really, really scary is when you're afraid of something, but you don't know specifically what it is that you're afraid of. It's a really, really big thing. So you want to break it down and narrow it down so that it becomes a manageable thing. And that's what journaling is going to do for you. You want to journal. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. You got to feel this out intuitively. So you want to journal, write things down, write down how you feel, process your emotions. This is extremely important, especially if you're going through a hard time, especially if you're stuck. You got to get clear on what it is. Okay. And then the other thing, the third thing, which I think will really help you guys out, is sometimes you just need to jumpstart yourself. So when we're talking about jumpstarting yourself, we're talking about you actually just picking something that's completely unrelated to what's happening in your life and focusing on it to get yourself moving. So I'll give you guys an example. So before I went away on Malawi, there was a period where I did feel like I was in a little bit of a rut, like I wasn't making progress. So what I decided to do was I wanted to do a mini cut. So I decided, I'm going to do a mini cut to get myself in shape for Malawi. So I got my friend Han to coach me. And then, we created a plan and I started executing the plan. Before you know it, I was in the gym near enough every day. I was doing cardio near enough every day. And I went into that zone where I was just super focused. And I started noticing that I started making progress in regards to my physique. I started getting stronger. I started getting leaner. And those good feelings that I was getting, which I was thinking, man, I'm making progress in this particular area. I'm feeling fantastic in this specific area, was able to carry over into the other aspects of my life. And I was able to jumpstart myself to get myself moving. So sometimes you need to just pick something that's completely unrelated to the situation that you're at hand and really zero in and focus on that and try get some progress from it. So maybe if you fight, you could just select a fight day, an amateur fight day, and prepare for the boxing match. or maybe there's a marathon. Pick a date for the marathon and then prepare for that marathon. Sometimes you just need to give yourself a little bit of a jump start to get a little bit of excitement and some good feelings in you. And once the good feelings are flowing, then you can that begins to filter into other aspects of your life. So those are the ideas that I've got for you guys to get yourself out of a rut.